You're listening to Energy Amplified. I'm your host, Marlisa McLaughlin, on greeninkradio.com. Thanks for joining me. Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Energy Amplified. Let me start by asking you this question. Have you ever heard of nutrition response testing? I hadn't heard about it until I discovered Cara Joseph of Cara Mia Wellness. Today's episode is called Optimum Health Through Nutrition, and Cara is a nutrition response practitioner here to elaborate as my guest. But before I introduce Cara to you, let me tell you a little bit about Cara. She is a graduate of the University of Connecticut School of Nursing. She also holds a Bachelor's of Science in Exercise Physiology from Arizona State, and her extensive training in nutrition response testing comes from Ulan Nutritional Systems. So after nursing sick patients in the hospital for over a decade, Cara wanted to provide a way for people to gain control over their personal health. So she helps clients achieve wellness through natural means using a customized program that works harmoniously with the body. So she provides a path to lifelong change by making gradient change that inspires a desire to feel well, not a demand to be well. She is a 7-time Ironman triathlon finisher and a mother of 2. Welcome, Cara.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Marlisa.
Well, let's get started. There's so much to cover. First of all, so how do you help people, and what is this technique all about?
Well, I would really, before I even get into that, I just want to share my personal story and talk a little bit about how I transitioned from being a nurse and exercise physiologist for the last really 25 years to doing what I do now. So originally, I was helping people through exercise and fitness and did corporate wellness programs. And I really feel like our life is a journey. And if we're open to learning, we can grow and learn as we move through life in our journey. And so in my personal journey, fitness was my original passion. And then I felt like it wasn't really enough. So I went back to school, became a nurse, and started nursing, and was also doing some exercise physiology, but more on a personal level, and really got involved with Ironman triathlons. And that was an exciting time in my life. And I loved nursing, but I also realized that what I was doing as a nurse was not really truly helping people, and nor was exercise by itself. And I came to this realization through my own personal journey of health. In my late 30s, early 40s, I became sick. And by that time, I had 2 little children. And I went and sought help from many different practitioners. And the answer was always surgery and lifelong drugs. And that was something that I did not feel was the answer for me. And through a lot of research, I came upon nutrition response testing, which was, to me at the time, something that seemed really radical for a family that what we felt was living this alternative lifestyle. We were eating organic. I was an exercise physiologist. I was exercising. I was an Ironman triathlon athlete, and so was my husband. And we were doing what we thought was alternative. But then when I got into nutrition response testing and learned about the impact of diet and true nutrition on my life and my health, and this thought that you could heal your body by giving it the right nutrients, that I started doing it for myself. And there was a point in my life where my health scared me, and I didn't really think that I would be able to be there for my children in the capacity that I really wanted to be.
And that's the key point. Beyond dying, the next thing we want to do is be present in the capacity that makes the most difference for our children.
For sure.
Yeah, not just there struggling.
And energetically, I really wanted to be more present, and I just felt like I couldn't. And so nutrition response testing really got me started. And by taking the right nutrients, I certainly wasn't healed immediately. It took me over a year to do that, but I wasn't scared anymore. anymore. And I really started to feel better pretty quickly, and changing my diet and taking nutrients that my body was really needing and my body was lacking. I really was able to start turning around my health. And at the time I was nursing, and I realized that most of the disease that the people I was caring for was coming from things that they had chosen to do in their life that maybe they didn't realize were right or wrong, but mostly food and nutrition related. And if I could help people before they got that sick and got into the hospital to live long, healthy lives without medication, without surgery, or at least, at the very least, minimal amounts of that, and improve the quality of their lives with just eating better, then I was in.
You sure were. And thank goodness. I had never heard about nutrition response testing until I met you. And
yes.
It's really a life changer. And what I love about Cara is that she really encourages a gradient change, something that's natural and that makes sense for you and doesn't put you in a compromised position just to achieve a goal.
Absolutely. I think that's really key when working with clients, that as a practitioner, I always want to listen to you as my client and to work on a gradient that's realistic for you. We all have different lives. We all have lives that are full, and to try to have somebody do something that's beyond their current reality and just too much to handle at one time, you'll never do it. I mean, we've all done those crash diets or the cleanse or whatever it is, or, the New Year's resolution, and it never lasts, and it doesn't last because it's not realistic. They're not realistic goals. So I really found through my own experience that it took me at least a year to fully change my diet, and it was so successful because I did it in a way that I really didn't realize that I was making huge changes. So they were these small changes like, okay, just have an open-faced sandwich today to get rid of some of the refined carbs instead of a full sandwich, or stop drinking Diet Coke in the afternoon, or whatever it is. And you just make these little tiny changes, and before you know it, you've made a huge change in your life and your diet and your health.
And lasting.
Absolutely, yes.
That's the beautiful part about it.
Yes.
It comes to a point where you want and desire healthy.
Absolutely.
The cravings that are part of the cycle that makes you feel very off balance dissipate with the health.
Right. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about diet for the listeners out there and what I'm talking about when I'm talking about diet to clients. And so when I look back on my own personal journey and how I thought I was eating this great diet and I was doing so well and I was so alternative, that I was really looking at 80% of my diet and I was ignoring 20% of it. And I think most of us do that. We think, well, we're eating salads and we're eating vegetables and that's good enough, but it's really not good enough. And when you really sit down and you really start to look at your diet, my main goal for clients is to get them onto a whole foods diet. So you're eating foods that you recognize that came from nature. So I think we can all relate to that. If you see a bunch of carrots, we know that the carrots came from the ground and those are good for our bodies. If we see a box of crackers, we know that maybe part of that once came from the earth, but it's so refined and the carbs are so condensed in that it's no longer really a food that our body was ever meant to process in large amounts. And large amounts meaning you're eating something that's refined at every meal. And for me, I was eating a salad, but I was having maybe a sandwich with it, or I was having a cupcake in the afternoon, but I had that salad in the afternoon for lunch. So I thought, well, that kind of eradicates the cupcake with my coffee now. And I had also gone running. So, of course, that's okay because I'd worked out. But in reality, your body is starving for nutrition. And every time we make that choice to have pizza over a steak and Brussels sprouts, we're robbing our body of nutrients And with the slow diet change that I do with clients, you slowly move into this whole foods diet and you realize that your body is craving this stuff. And when you're eating correctly, your body feels different. You feel different emotionally and physically, and you start to resonate with that. Your energy resonates with that food that you're eating. And hopefully within the year or less, you are happy enough eating whole foods that you just don't want to ever turn back.
Anybody out there who may not eat meat might be asking, well, gosh, what if I don't eat meat or if I'm vegan? So there are alternatives, I'm assuming, to how to go about working in the way that you're talking about so that your body can get what it truly needs.
Right. So vegetarianism, there's many different reasons why people become vegetarians or vegans. And it is much more difficult to get in the protein requirements that your body needs. And it's absorbed differently. Plant proteins are absorbed differently in the body than animal-based proteins. So you have to eat much more plant-based proteins to get in the requirements that you need versus eating the animal-based proteins. So in that regard, and thinking of that, I think that vegetarianism has become this new fat-free lifestyle. You know, back in the 80s and 90s, it was low cholesterol and fat-free. And I think both of us have been around enough to see a few of these diet fads that have gone through.
And industry pushed.
Industry push, absolutely. So vegetarianism, I feel, is this trend that we're seeing. And so a lot of clients come to me that are honestly, they're looking at a lot of literature that's out there on the net and listening to what their friends are doing. And they're saying, hey, you know, I'm losing weight, I'm feeling better. And initially you are, because initially you're probably eating way more vegetables than you ever did before. So you're getting in more nutrients, and that's great. And you're probably getting rid of the crappy protein, animal-based protein sources that were in your diet. So you go buy a package of any kind of meat at most of the grocery stores, that's a conventional product. That's going to have antibiotics in it. It's going to have animal feed that was never meant for the animals to be eating and therefore never meant for you to be eating. And there's some chemicals that they're going to be using in the processing of that meat that's going to be carcinogenic for you. So absolutely, if you get that stuff out of your diet, you're going to start feeling better. You're going to eat more fruits and vegetables. But on the long term, if you're not giving your body the protein that it needs, then you're going to be missing out on a huge macronutrient that we really all need to be building new cells in our body. And it becomes a diet that is also very difficult to sustain, because in order to get the right protein sources, you have to be very careful with what you're feeding yourself and making sure that you don't slip into that high carb category. And that's what I see with a lot of vegetarians. They start really well, and then before you know it, you're eating a lot of beans, rice, pasta, and those are really refined carbs, except for the beans, but everything else would be a refined carb. So vegetarianism, I am not a big proponent of it, and I make that very clear to my clients. If it's a choice that's a philosophical choice, I will never ask you to change. But if it's just based on information that you've gotten and you were once not a vegetarian and you're just doing it for health purposes, I'll probably have that discussion with you about maybe incorporating a better source of meat from your local organic farmer.
And that's a point I also wanted to make sure we cleared, is that not every local farmer is going to be compliant with good health in terms of what they're feeding their animals and what we're eating.
Absolutely. So part of what I do with people is help educate them on where to find clean food sources and how to shop at your supermarket, how to shop at your local farmer's market, and what questions to ask your local farmers to find out if you're getting the products that you're really looking for.
Right. The vocabulary has yet to be really defined in a way that covers all the different variations of people's perspectives on food.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
asking your farmer, is this clean? They are going to be like, well, yeah, it's very clean. I grew it. It doesn't get any cleaner than that. But
I think we've come a long way in the term organic, and I think most people now assimilate organic with not using pesticides, not using chemicals in production of whatever food it is, and not using any antibiotics when it's with the meat source. So if you ask any of your farmers, are you using organic practices? They will typically know what the organic term means. Clean, they may say yes, the apple's been washed, but they don't really understand what you're talking about. But organic, they will definitely be able to speak to that.
And that's also a marketing term that is now becoming more refined so that we're getting close and accurate information about what truly is organic.
That is true, and the USDA has done a good job in categorizing different levels of organic. So there's different labels for something that's 100% organic versus 70% organic versus just using some organic ingredients. But organic is also another marketing tool, and that's something that we talk to clients about how to steer in the right direction of eating whole foods versus refined foods. So just like the vegetarian, I could call myself an organic eater or a vegetarian or whatever term I want to use, but still have a horrible diet. So really the key is your food a whole food source? Did this come from the ground, and does it look like it still came from the ground? So if I'm eating veggie sticks, it doesn't look like the veggies that possibly made the veggie sticks anymore. So that's a refined product. It might be organic, it might have vegetables in it, but it's still been refined and processed. So we're fooling ourselves if we think that that's healthy for us and a good choice for a snack. A plate of vegetables, peppers, cucumbers, carrots, that came from the ground. We know it came from the ground because we recognize a pepper and a carrot and cucumbers. And so, that would be whole food.
As simple as it is for the lifestyles that have evolved since we began to process food, there may be many of you out there thinking, well, this is so overwhelming. What am I not supposed to eat? Especially when you come home starving after work.
Yes.
It's very easy to grab those processed crackers and some cheese and think, this isn't so bad.
Absolutely. And that's where the gradient comes in. So clients know that is the ultimate goal, is to become a whole foods eater. But that goal doesn't happen right away, and it shouldn't happen right away. If you came into my office and the next week you came to me and you said, I'm totally whole foods, I'm in, I would really question that, because I would know that would have a rebound effect that you really don't have a lot of control over. You're trying to race faster than your body and your mind is really capable of, and you will eventually rebound, and you'll find yourself in your pantry hunting down chocolate chips or crackers or chips or whatever it is, or running out to the grocery store or calling your husband and tell you to bring you home whatever at the end of the day. And that's normal, and that's just your body saying, hey, I'm not ready for this right now. And that's why we go slow. And this is a lifelong change. So who cares if it takes you 6 months or 2.5 years? It doesn't really matter, as long as you have the intention of trying to eat clean and a whole foods diet and always working towards that. So if you had normally, let's say, toast with peanut butter in the morning, and that morning you had some scrambled eggs instead, that's great. And then at the end of the day, go back to what you were doing before. So if you normally have crackers and cheese and wine at the end of the day, go ahead and focus on the one good change you made that day, and do that for a month. Just change your breakfast for a month to scrambled eggs, or whatever the little mini changes that you're going to do, and focus on that one positive thing, and then make a goal for yourself for, let's say, the next month to make another small change. And you just keep going until you've accomplished your goal. And again, this is a lifetime change, so who cares if it takes you 4 months or 4 years?
Very inspiring. For you guys that may experience guilt and shame when you're not adhering to your intentions and your diet, check this out.
So I love the hormone ghrelin. So ghrelin is actually a hormone that tells your body, hey, I'm satisfied and that was really great for me, and now I'm full and I don't want any more of that. So if you're hiding in your pantry and you're gobbling up, cupcakes, and you wonder why why after 2, you still want 6 more. And you just you have this uncontrollable urge you just want to eat the whole package. That's because you're eating from a place of guilt and shame. And the levels of ghrelin in your body don't rise to a place that tells your brain, I'm satisfied and I've had enough. So I always tell clients, don't feel bad if you're eating that cupcake or you're having birthday cake or whatever it is. I'm going to tell you maybe you should eat something different when you come to see me. But at the same time, when you do have it and enjoy it and make it a pleasant experience for yourself and your body and your emotional state, and really enjoy that cupcake. Make a ritual out of it. Get a cup of coffee, have it with a friend, be out in the open and just eat whatever it is that you're going to eat and enjoy it. And then you're telling your body, I'm satisfied. I've enjoyed this experience. The level of ghrelin will rise in your body and you won't want a second one.
So you actually have a biophysical support system, an energetic support system to enjoy your cupcake.
Absolutely, for sure.
It doesn't get any better than that.
Yes.
Because guilt has a really stronghold energy in our systems. Once it gets in there, it runs through and all kinds of things happen. So
absolutely. And we are all on some level emotionally attached to food. And that is partly survival. Without food, we wouldn't survive. And if you've ever had a baby, you know that that's their number one thing. They're just looking for food. They sleep, they wake up, they look for more food. So that's where we start from, and we need food to live and survive. And so, but we also have this other bad attachment to food where we want to eat the bad stuff, but then we feel guilty about eating the bad stuff. And then we feel bad about ourselves. And then we eat more bad stuff. And it's just this horrible, vicious cycle that I would love to help people just stop. And you shouldn't feel guilty and bad. Just feel responsible for the choices that you're making. And if you have whatever it is, just own up to it. Okay, I had the cupcake. It was delicious. And now I'm going to have a salad.
That's great advice. It really helps you along. Following this consciousness and taking responsibility, that alone amps up your energy and just gives you this incredible sense of, I can do it.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And so, my favorite visit with people is when a client comes in and I know the change has happened and they've given their body enough nutrients where this essential vitality has come back to them.
Love that.
And it's just amazing. They just have this little bit of sparkle to them that you just know, it's working. It's so good. And so if we can talk a little bit about nutrition response testing and how the energy works. So we're all these energetic beings. And when I first start with somebody, I actually test their energy level. And
how do you do that?
If you hold out your arm and I press on your arm. So nutrition response testing is a form of muscle testing. If you've ever experienced muscle testing before, that's all it is. So you hold up your arm, I press on your arm, and I see if you're strong or you're weak. And to find out somebody's energy level initially, I will continually press on the arm until the arm goes weak and see where you are. Sometimes it just takes 2 taps and their arm is down and that's it. And you're really at a really low level then. And as you feed your body more nutrients and you become healthier and you regain that vitality and sparkle, then your arm will be able to stay up longer. And that's how I can tell you're getting better.
And we can tell through our skepticisms when it actually works. You're thinking, how can she actually know that, for instance, I'm low on iron through my arm?
Right. So with nutrition response testing, somebody will come in and I do a full body scan. And the way it works is usually I use some limb, an arm or a leg, and I'll press on it. And if you're able to hold your arm up level to the ground and it doesn't move when I press on it, then that's considered a strong arm. And then I will place my hand on different areas in your body that correspond to different organs in your body, or areas of your body that you're having trouble with. So maybe somebody comes in complaining of a rash or an ache or a pain somewhere, and I'll put my hand on that and then press on your arm. And if it's a problem area, your arm will go weak. And the reason it goes weak is because the body recognizes that there is a problem. It already knows, hey, whatever it is, let's say it's a problem with your stomach, and you got a problem there and your body knows it. And if I press on your stomach and then press on your arm, your body will intuitively know there is added stress to an already stressed area, and it will take the energy from your arm and place it in the stressed area, and now your arm will be weak. And that's how I can determine different areas in your body that do need help and figure out what nutrients you need to help support those organs.
And you have such an extensive knowledge of the anatomy. All your foundations are perfect for this field that you're in.
Yeah.
It's amazing, really, how it's come together.
It is. And, that life journey that we started to talk about at the beginning of our talk here today, I feel like it just sort of all led to where I am now. And I can truly help people with what I'm doing. And that life journey helped me get there.
It's wonderful. I have to say that to you that out there that may not have experienced muscle testing before, it's very similar to that sort of subtle feeling that you may experience and not even be conscious of when when your body's saying yes and when it's saying no. And if it's not in overt language, maybe your arms are crossed because you don't want to do something, or you can feel the body lift and expand, your energy will do that. So it really is a readable language.
Absolutely. And so once I've tested somebody and determined what part of their body needs help immediately. So there's different energy modes that I'll put people in by using different hand placements to determine what I call the burning building, what your burning building is. So we're just going to work on one area at a time, and you might have 5 or 6 spots in your area in your body that need help, but we want to work on the very first one that your body tells me, hey, through nutrition response testing and the different techniques that I'm using, this is the first thing I want you to work on. And I call that the burning building, because if your house is on fire and you go run down to the hardware store and you go and buy a bunch of wood and you start rebuilding your house, but it's still on fire, you're never going to be able to rebuild your house because it's going to keep burning down. And that's what I see a lot of what's happening is, I could just give you a whole bunch of nutrients and tell you to change your diet, but if I never helped you fix your burning building, it would just be on fire still. So we need to put the fire out and find the root of the problem, and that's where the body starts healing.
Something that I found really interesting, your description about rebuilding and the cell life, how long it takes for certain cells to rebuild, and why a process of changing your lifestyle might take you way longer than you would want it to.
Right. So if you think about the cells in your body, every cell in your body has a lifespan. And we know that cells in our body die because we get dry skin, our hair falls out, we have, peeling lips or whatever it is. And those are external signs that those cells are dying. And that's a normal, healthy life process. Nobody has the same cells that they were born with. That just wouldn't work. And so you're constantly renewing yourself. And different organs have different turnover times. So your gut lining might be a couple days, whereas nerve cells are more like 7 years. And those cells regrow with building blocks that come from your diet. So if your diet consists of refined carbs and nutrient-lacking diet, you're not going to have the building blocks to rebuild your body. And it may take you decades. So for instance, for myself, when I looked back on my health, I realized that my health didn't start deteriorating when I was 40. It started deteriorating when I was 20, and I went away to college and based my diet on pizza and beer. And then I got a little bit better, and I did the 80-20 plan where 80% of the time I'm eating good, but 20% of the time I was eating bad, and sometimes it was 50-50. And you're bombarding your body with inflammatory substances like sugar and refined carbs, so that doesn't help cell rebuilding at all. And you're not giving your body the building blocks that you need to regrow the cells. So eventually, decades later, we show up with disease and probably pain and some symptoms, and then we give a name to whatever your disease is. But that just didn't happen overnight. It happened over decades of your life.
And rebuilding with the same poor contributions to your health,
right,
over and over and over again, so you're not
right.
feeding it the right things,
right. And so that's why this what I do with people is a lifelong commitment, and it doesn't happen overnight, because you're trying to regrow cells with better nutrients through diet and sometimes through supplements and herbal remedies and whatever else I have in my toolbox. And it takes time to do that. This does not work like a medication that changes some kind of pathway in your body and alters something to make an outcome and make it really, you're like, wow, that's really great, that works so well, but it's not working in harmony with how your body was intended to work. And you're not really supporting your body in regrowing the cells that you need to be regrowing. You're just making a change in your body that has an outcome, but the long-term outcome may not be something that you want.
Beautifully said. It's truly an organic, holistic process.
Absolutely.
Just clearly that.
Yep.
Without a timeline. That's the beauty of it.
That's right.
And when you start to impose the timeline, it can turn around, and you have to really figure out in which part of the journey did I need to go right when I went left.
Absolutely.
And there are so many variations. And there are things you can replace and substitute if you're not willing to get rid of things.
Yep.
And that helps tremendously.
Definitely.
Before we close, I think it's a really great thing that we crack the myth of old age, because once people start getting a little older, they say, oh, I feel horrible, I'm getting old. And we were talking about, no, it's not necessarily your age here. The problem is...
Absolutely. So, yeah, we always say, well, I'm getting older, and I see people in their 50s that are saying, I'm getting older, it's so hard to do whatever. And we really you should be waking up and feeling good. And you should be feeling that way when you're 30, when you're 50, when you're 75.
If you're wanting optimum health.
Absolutely. My oldest client is 98, and my youngest one is 5. And once you gain that vitality back, you should be feeling good, and you should be able to be living a normal, energetic, full life, and not feel like, I need coffee, it's the afternoon, or I just can't get going in the morning, or whatever it is that's really bogging you down. And a lot of that comes from nutrition. Now, as we age, we do have a normal cell regeneration normally slows down, and that's just a normal aspect of aging. But at 75, you should still be able to go out to the golf course and play a round of golf without a problem. And I only know this because I know people that can do this, and it's because they're living this whole foods lifestyle, and they're feeding their bodies what their bodies need and require to be able to live a full life.
And the golf game doesn't necessarily end with a 4-hour nap or an exhaustion that taxes them beyond. You're talking about go out there and play your game of golf, feel great while you're playing it, and also feel great after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's a sustaining cycle of health and optimum vitality.
Absolutely.
So it keeps the engine running.
Yep.
Consistently.
Yes.
And on that bright note, what can we close with? Would you like to give us some information? Where can people find you? How would you like to be contacted?
So I have a website, kiramiawellness.com. You can also find me at the Mystic Wellness Center, and we are also on Facebook at Kiramia Wellness.
In Mystic, Connecticut.
In Mystic, Connecticut, that's right. And I work with Marlisa, who does energy healing and is a wonderful healer as well.
Oh, thank you. So thanks. That was fantastic, and I really hope that we've reached all of you out there in some way that has inspired you to desire your vitality back and get the energy flowing at its optimum levels.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your energy and time with me. Be sure to check out our blogs and other great shows on greeninkradio.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. This is Energy Amplified. I'm Marlisa McLaughlin on greeninkradio.com, wishing you hope, health, and joy.